So I was just wondering if in Denver right now, if they're like, you know what the issue is, why we're not winning, is Jokic is not doing enough. He's only averaging 27.4 points, 11.1 rebounds, and 8.6 assists with 1.6 steals and 0.6 blocks. His blocks are obviously stinking up the joint, and it's his fault that they're 15 and 13. It's not all the other players' faults. It's not Jamal Murray. It's not Michael Porter Jr. or Will Barton or Millsap. It is Jokic's fault that they are 15 and 13, because I feel like a lot of our discussions on the Mavs being 13 and 15 is, hey,
if
Luka needs to do better.
Great.
He needs to shoot. By the way, and then here's my love for Luka. Luka's shooting over 40% from three in the month of February.
Dude,
right now.
I know people tag me with the Luka hater thing, and I understand why that is. But I will tell you this: if we get to a point, first of all, that's awesome. If we ever get to a point where he's shooting 38 to 40% from 3-point, he will unquestionably be the best player in the NBA.
Yeah, and I think this is tough, because we are looking at Luka going, hey, make a better decision in the last 3 minutes on that possession. Or, obviously he missed the shot against Portland. He got an open look, but I'm not asking a guy like you have to make that shot, but he did get a good look, and he just missed it. But I just wonder, in Denver right now, are they, with their best player by far, MVP candidate, going, we need more from him, not more from the role players? Because I feel like we've gotten on conversations this year is, it's not the role players' fault, it's Luka's fault. And I just was like, I feel like that's a little bit unfair, because we'd have to now say Jokic is not an MVP candidate because their team isn't winning enough.
Can I ask y'all a question then? I think the situations are a little bit different. Maybe not, though. I want to get y'all's feedback. Is because the role players on Denver just seem like they're better than on the Mavericks. So, on the Mavericks, you can tell the role players to play better all you like. I just wonder the capacity for them to do so. Whereas on Denver, you've seen nights where, last night was probably one of them, where Jamal Murray was probably the best player looking out there on the court. You've seen nights where Michael Porter Jr. looks like he can be the best player on the court regardless of who you're playing. How many of those players are on the Mavericks where you're like, I like Jalen Brunson as much as the next person, but how many nights are there where you're like, he could be the best player on the court? That doesn't happen. So that's my only thought is, I wonder if part of the criticism gets changed because they're like, well, they have the capacity to do so versus the Mavericks. You hope KP is that guy, but I don't know.
Corey, I know I haven't heard from you on this, so I've been talking enough on this segment.
I'm trying to figure out a lot of different things.
He's still
here.
investigating the Wentz deal.
Well, I'm trying to figure out. Actually, I'm trying to understand PER a little bit better.
Oh yeah, the player efficiency rating.
It's kind of like WAR in baseball. It's like, it's not a perfect stat, but it gives you an idea.
Yeah, you know who has the highest PER right now? It's Jokic.
You know that I do.
It's Jokic, and Luka's 7th. But then you look, and Kristaps is, Luka has 26.84, and Kristaps has a 21. Those are really good. Those are really good.
Oh, yeah.
Boban has a 21 also, so that's weird. But then, you look at Denver, and, Jamal Murray has a 15, and Porter has a 17, and Millsap has a 17. They're all, good. It does look that way, Mike.
I'm surprised Murray's is that low. I would have guessed that was higher.
When you look at the rest of the role players for the Mavericks, it's 14, 11. Everybody else isn't that good. And I did bring up, or Choppy brought it up, and I don't disagree with him, that there were times it looks like, hey, everybody clear out for Luka to do his thing, or maybe it's just Luka is just that good that he's doing everything, and everybody else is kind of standing around going, well, Luka's going to get that rebound, Luka's going to do that. Why do I have to do it if Luka's going to end up doing it? And it does have that Westbrook type feel of everything else is going through him. And Mike, you told me that Richardson would be a better player because of Luka. You told me that all of these guys would be better because Luka's that good, and they aren't. And I don't know, why aren't they? Why, if all these role players are bad, then why is Luka not making them better? Because that's what Luka's supposed to do.
That's a great point. I don't think Westbrook and Luka compare at all. I think Westbrook stat hunts tremendously.
I get that.
And I don't think Luka is stat hunting for rebounds and just saying, screw it. I mean, at times he doesn't remember he's supposed to be on defense. But I think at times Westbrook is stat hunting the triple-double, and I don't think Luka stat hunts the triple-double. It just happens. That being said, I think that is a great question, Corey. And I do think he gives the best looks in the NBA. I will put, obviously, Chris Paul and LeBron James in the category, too, of they give the best looks that you could ever receive in the NBA. And honestly, Jokic is in that category, too. Jokic is now, to me, it's different because he's a center, but he does handle the ball a lot.
Yep.
He is giving tremendous looks. And I'm sure Denver right now, honestly, their probably real discussions are probably more in Denver right now. We need to trade all these guys and go get Bradley Beal. We need to give them, hey, if we need to trade Murray, at this point, if we need to trade Murray to get Bradley Beal, trade him Murray and Michael Porter Jr., and we'll take Bradley Beal, and we'll take our chances with those other guys, playing. So I do think that they're looking at it the way that I think most of us are looking at it. And Kevin looks at it this way, too. I just thought it'd be fun to bust his balls a little bit.
No, I didn't intend to turn it around that way. It's just, it was a question because of where we are with this. And I guess my other part of it, too, is, Kevin, do our players just not have the skill set then? Like, they were a good offense last year, and some guys were hitting threes, and I don't know what their stats are, like Dodo's stats compared to last year. I would have to go look at where these guys are compared to what they were doing last year. But Mike, you're watching the games, you see it too. Do the guys not have or possess the skills to be that good a quality player?
I'm not trying to drive you insane by answering a question with a question, but would you prefer it's that or that this is not a good fit and you have to revamp the roster that way? Would you prefer you have to revamp because we're not good enough or revamp because they don't fit?
Ooh, that's a tough question. I think either way, you still need to find answers, right?
Oh, for sure.
And I think that something that Nekias Duncan of Basketball News, I had him on Saturday with Will.
His
Will
last
Chambers.
name is Duncan, and he talks about basketball.
Yeah,
it's
awesome. Incredible. And he was talking
Kinda
about
limiting.
this team, and he brought up a point that I think we all kind of knew, but when it was explicitly stated, it was illuminating, is that Luka's the only one who can penetrate. So we talk about initiating the offense and playmaking, but specifically, Luka's the only one that can dribble, drive, and get to the rim and collapse the defense. That then starts those rotations. So I think that when we're talking about him in comparison to Jokic initiates the offense. Yes. He does a lot of the passing, but he has other guys around him that can penetrate into the defense and collapse the defense. Luka is really the only one, and Jalen Brunson does a little bit of it, but not to the same extent as Luka.
And the other thing, too, Corey, is, they're not good enough. Now, I will tell you this. Josh Richardson is paid what he should be getting paid. He's $11 million. That's what he is in the NBA. Unfortunately, it's nothing. Hey, Tim Hardaway Jr. is a nice player in the NBA. He's getting paid about $8 million too much. He's a $10 million player, not an $18 million player. Dwight Powell barely plays, and we're giving him $12 million. He's a $4 million player in the NBA. So I think these guys are not good enough, Corey, and that's why I believe bold moves need to be made. And I don't want to put this on Porzingis. It's kind of like how Kevin has to say, I think Luka's a great player, but I think Kristaps Porzingis is a good player. But
he has to be better.
I don't think I'm with Brian Scalabrine. I don't know or think he can be the number 2 guy on a championship team. It doesn't mean I don't think he's good. I think he's good. But when I write down, and I know that KP missed time, when I write down the guys that are contending for the All-Star team, Luka after 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, I don't think he's a top 20 player in the Western Conference. Ooh. So our number 2 player most likely is not a top 20 player in the Western Conference. That's tough, and I don't know if he can get there. Mike. So that's to me I'm not saying he's not good. When I start listing the guys that aren't going to make the All-Star team, De'Aaron Fox, Brandon Ingram, Devin Booker, DeMar DeRozan, Christian Wood, Murray, C.J. McCollum. Cat isn't going to make it because he didn't play much this year. But, can I start saying that, for sure Porzingis is better than all of those guys who aren't even going to make the All-Star team?
Yeah, and Mike, with the rest of the role players, how many of the role players would you take off of off of Denver's team as opposed to the Mavericks.
I mean, he just listed Porter and Millsap, but if you classify everyone outside the big two as a role,
so Jokic's team should be better, Kevin. Yeah,
sure.
Like Mike's been right about this all along. Like Jokic's team should be a lot better than they are. I just really wanted to support Mike in this because that was the whole intent of this segment. Anyway.
No. And look, both guys are unbelievable, and both guys need better help around them. What's interesting is Denver did make it to the Western Conference Finals and is struggling tremendously this year, and maybe they'll turn it around, and maybe the Mavericks will turn it around. But I would say Denver and Dallas are two of the most disappointing teams, and maybe the two most disappointing teams in the Western Conference this year.